Hey, everybody. I wanted to talk for a minute about your children and social media. Recently, there has been a significant increase in the number of children who are diagnosed with issues of anxiety and depression. And much of this is being traced back to children's use of social media. So, this is an important topic that we wanted to spend some time on. You can use this QR code to find these slides if you want to have your own copy. There is a disclaimer here. What I'm about to tell you is the research that we're seeing and the trends that social scientists and university researchers are seeing, not just across our country, but across the world. Much of this research is international research. However, I am not trying to tell you how to raise your children. I'm not trying to give you a path that will guarantee that your children never suffer from anxiety and depression. But what I am offering you is a bit of research that will hopefully help you understand the landscape a little bit better. One of the things that we believe is that 2012 was the year of anxiety, the year that we sort of mark as the beginning of the adolescent mental health crisis that we're in the middle of now. What sparked this? Widespread adoption of smartphones. Smartphones became accessible to everyone. And this is also when social media really took off, very much as a response to increases in high-speed internet when we went to 4G, and that really increased people's ability to not only access the internet in a faster way, but to access it in a variety of places. For the most part, parents have felt that the technology has been ahead of them. And now what we see were parents who were overprotecting their children in many instances, but yet really lost in terms of what is happening online with their children, because very often their children went online to these much earlier than the parents went online. One thing that we do know about the mental health crisis is that it is affecting everyone. As you can see from these graphs, as we move from 2010 to 2021, you see sharp increases in all groups in terms of instance of anxiety and depression. One of the things that we see with these increases is that the decrease in the amount of time children are given to play has really sharply impacted this. If you look at this graph, what you can see is that since 1975 to the year 2015, the amount of outdoor play and socializing outside of the home that children have gotten has dramatically decreased, and the amount of time that children spend on screens, quite logically, has dramatically increased. So we have more screen-based activities, more supervised activities, while unsupervised activities and non-screen-based play have gone down. So what does this mean? We know that play increases all sorts of positive things for children: problem solving, creativity, language, all of these. Even risky play, even that play where there's the possibility that a child might fall or a child might trip, is beneficial in a lot of cases. It helps children learn to self-regulate their fear and their excitement. It also gives them opportunities to test out their decision-making skills. One of the important things it does is it helps kids learn to overcome their own anxiety and increase their self-confidence. By protecting children so much from any risk, we've actually, in some ways, harmed them. When we lost play, when we lost especially something like unsupervised play, we have found increasingly that social media has taken its place. Social media is not all evil. It is not all negative. There are definitely some positive effects of social media, as you can see here. Now, of course, the reason we're having this conversation is because there are also negative impacts of social media that we have to be aware of. So, how do we work in ways to maintain the positive impact of social media while mitigating the negative effects? We know that there are moderating factors. What helps? We know that in terms of parent involvement, when parents are actively setting boundaries, when they're having open conversations with their children, and there is consistent monitoring of social media use, we know that children in those types of situations do better with social media than children who are not. Children who have pre-existing mental health traits might not do as well, might be more negatively impacted by social media. And we also have to remember that the platforms, the social media platforms that our children are on, bear a lot of responsibility in making sure that they are protecting children. We know that social media impacts girls in ways that it does not impact boys. And on this slide, I've outlined some of the reasons why. Girls are just different from boys. They think differently from boys. So when girls are put online, they are taking away different messages from social media than boys are. One of the big differences that we are seeing with girls is their tendency towards a desire for perfectionism and a tendency to compare themselves in negative ways to other people. For example, girls are often seeing images that are highly curated. People are posting images that are heavily using filters to make them look better. And girls are looking at these honestly fake images and comparing themselves to these images, which we know is not healthy. The other problem that we have is that moms are just as likely to fall victim to these things as their daughters are. So it's not just that you have to make sure you're having these conversations with your daughters. You have to make sure you're having these conversations with yourself so that you're not falling victim to these unreal expectations that you see on social media. So what can you do? You can have 4 different conversations with your children, especially your daughters. Talk to them about the false expectation that social media puts on them. Girls are more attracted to beauty content, and once they click on one thing, suddenly the algorithm is kicking in, and that's all they're seeing. They are being bombarded with beauty content suddenly. When they post pictures, they are posting pictures and hoping for people to like their pictures. And this very physical representation of themselves is what their self-worth gets tied up in. It's not about their accomplishments, it's how they look. Have a conversation about sexism and misogyny. We have seen a rapid increase in language in social media being negative towards women, being negative towards girls. And this increase is not going to calm down anytime soon. People are not reporting this negative language as much as they used to, and social media platforms are not taking it down. The next conversation can be really difficult: sexting and sextortion. Girls very often, and boys as well, I don't want to exclude the boys here, are being convinced by other people um, to send pictures that we don't want them sending to of them in compromising positions, of them in private, personal situations. And unfortunately, kids are being blackmailed in many different situations, in bullying situations. Some of these are tied to teen suicide, which is absolutely tragic. The important thing here, the message is if, if you've made a mistake, let's see what we can do to fix it. It is okay. It will be hard. It will be difficult, but it is not the end of the world. The fourth conversation that you need to have with your child is about dating apps. I know we think of dating apps as something that 20 somethings are doing, but high school students are using dating apps. Middle school students are using dating apps now. They are out there, and you need to be conscious as a parent, as a grandparent, of the existence of these dating apps. We can have a long conversation about schools and phones. The bottom line is schools need to ban phones. Here's a little bit about what the research says. One of the important points about this is that the phone doesn't even have to be on to be a distraction to learning and to education. Even when it's turned off, academic performance has been impaired, and this has been shown in several different research studies. The one reason that we haven't banned phones is parents. Parents want to have that constant contact with their children. Parents have gotten just as addicted to this instantaneous communication as their children have. So one of the steps that we as parents have to make for the benefit of our children is letting go of that ability to get in touch with your child at any minute. I know that we're all terrified of school shootings and all of these horrible things that are happening, but we have to understand that the damage that phones are doing to your child's education is far more likely, far more significant than not being able to get a hold of your child in the case of an emergency. So here are some suggestions. The next few suggestions that I'm going to provide are really community level suggestions more than individual level suggestions. Lesson number 1, reclaim space and community experiences on a weekly basis, if possible. Make sure that you are cultivating multiple communities for your child that will get them interacting with other children, with other adults within those communities. With us, it happens to be a church. What can you do to get your child more involved with face-to-face communities? Lesson number 2, make sure that your child has multiple communities to be a part of. Church communities, school communities, sports communities. Reach out to local institutions to see if they can provide kids' nights for your kids, game nights. And again, what we're looking for is that authentic face-to-face interaction. Establish a culture that offers a clear progression of roles. So when our kids graduate from high school and go to college, we make a big deal out of that. When our kids get their driver's license, we make a big deal out of that. Let's make those celebrations more public, more important, so that kids are seeing their progression from childhood to adolescence to adult. Let's make those progressions more clear and let's celebrate them. Lesson number 4, be a mentor to your child. Reclaim that mentorship for in-person roles that strengthen community. And don't just be a mentor for your child, be a mentor for the other children in your community, in the church. How can you help mentor children who are going through this? Often, a well-trusted adult can be a better mentor than a parent because parents are often equated with judgment and unfortunately, punishment. And kids don't want to admit that they've made a mistake to their parents, but sometimes they will allow other people to help mentor them through these difficult waters. What do all these suggestions have in common? They all involve a community. They all involve a tightly knit community that is supportive of each other, that is helping each other, that we are going into these interactions with each other wanting the best for all that are part of our community. So on the next slides, I will let you read through most of these, but it really describes what can parents do on an individual level with their own children. Feel free to pause this video if you need to. One of the things that we really want to stress in all of these suggestions is that there are times when parents are stepping away from their phones so that they're modeling for their children those digital breaks. On this page, the one thing that I want to stress here is this concept of abstinence, that your kids understand, no, you're not allowed to have this app. You're not allowed to be on this app until you reach a certain point in your life. Speaking of which, most of the research is saying that children should not have smartphones until they were 16 years old, until they get to high school, until they start driving. Get your kid a flip phone if you want to be able to call them. Get them a dumb phone that does not have access to the internet. All of these things are helping delay that onslaught of social media that kids are so vulnerable to. Give them more time for free play, give them more age-appropriate responsibilities, and as much as you can, limit screen time, which also means, parents, that we're going to have to limit our own screen time as well. Finally, you can do the phones down challenge with your kids, even if it's just starting out for an hour, 2 hours. The addiction we have to our phones is very much an addiction, just like someone might be addicted to alcohol or cigarettes or drugs. We are truly addicted to our phones. When we are separated from our phones, we get nervous, our heart starts racing, we lose our ability to focus. All of that is true. So participate in a phones down challenge with your family or with your community. Finally, this should come up at the federal level in the 2025 legislative agenda, the Kids Online Safety Act, which will go a long way in forcing Meta, enforcing all of these companies, all these social media companies to take a more proactive role in protecting our children. I hope that this will pass, and I hope that all of this responsibility won't fall on parents, that at least the platforms themselves will have some of this responsibility. If you have any questions at all about this PowerPoint slide, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.